Greetings and salutations. Doing an OBS recording and trying to capture what's going on here. Thank you for watching. So I'm fighting this skeleton boss, and he just keeps walking away. I don't know why he's walking away. We got him. We got him like me and angry. There we go. So now he's full of life again. We got him. 2/3 of the life. Look at that. And he just was start. Well, I guess I can't capture it, but he just started walking away, and I don't understand why. Okay, whatever. I don't know what that was about. But I initially attacked him over here by this spire on the walk, and he just was like started this long walk, and then gradually started to heal up, and then he stopped. He stopped over there, and really confusing. I don't know if it was a lag, a latency issue. But you know what? I was gonna start making some content anyways. But I started thinking I'd really like to see some more voice audios. Like I'm going to eat your soul. Or I don't think you bathed today. And it's just some more one-liners. Maybe like I've learned the riddle of steel. Something a little bit more because it's definitely I've been listening to say the same 15 or maybe eight different quotes over and over and over, so it's just one of those things. But I kind of wanted to talk about a few other subjects, and this is more along the lines of the development role. So I've noticed that the player base has just fallen off to nothing on the Isles of Siptah. Siptah, I think I'm saying that right. Siptah. And I'll show you here. I'll go to players list, and you can see how there's just the three of us now, and lots of buildings are starting to go into the decay phase. So you had that initial surge where populars were pretty crowded. People rolled through most of the content, and then they realized that the grind was too severe for the items that they could just get on the Exiles map. So it was too contrasty. And although I do like the playability loops that they built into the system, like grinding the was it Eldoranium or whatever it is. I hate these made up names. The green ingots that you gotta smelt. I would like them to change that formula a little bit. So if you don't have a smelter or you have a tier 1 smelter, it's 3 ingots to make one bar. If you don't have a smelter, if you have a low tier smelter, let's say you have a tier 2 smelter, it's 2 ingots to make 1 bar. If you have a named tier 4 smelter, it's 1 ingot to make 1 bar. I'd like to see that cascade or scale a little bit instead of it just being the same formula throughout. Just a little bit more depth there, kind of like the way that iron is, maybe that same formula of iron and steel, but transferred over to ingots. Because I went through the trouble of getting a tier 4 smelter, and I noticed there was no difference. It goes faster, but there's no proficiency. So once we all figured out that there wasn't any need to have a tier 4 smelter, named smelter, you could stop at a 3 or 2. Most people would just stop farming it altogether. So a couple of these systems need to be balanced out a little bit more in order to drive the reason to go for those tier 4 crafting thralls on this map. And this content is really derived around the construct of this map. That's one issue that I had. I've talked in some of my other videos about the way that dungeons scale, because you're forced to run the same dungeons over and over and over and over and over to get those ingots, those green ingots, Eldorium or whatever the hell it is. The problem is they don't scale, so you might become more powerful as you transition from steel to hardened steel to blue steel, and then to not blue steel, star metal to ultimately legendary weapons, as you scale in difficulty or in capability, and then you end up with better thralls. You transition from tier 1 to tier 3, and then from tier 3 to tier 4 thralls. Um, the ultimately the dungeons don't scale well at all. They're just the same kind of the difficulty you had with hardened steel or steel. They're still that same difficulty, and I know it's the easy answer is just to nerf everything, but then that defeats the purpose of of going after these harder materials and spending the resources and crafting. So I think the ultimately the best solution is to have the dungeons scale, and having them scale based off the player's choice. And by doing that, maybe have like a combo or a dial that you preset um, on the beginning of the dungeon. Like there's some wheels, some cogs that turn, and maybe there's 2 cogs or 3 cogs, and you rotate a series of symbols, and that will preset the difficulty level for that dungeon. And based off that difficulty will be your reward based off that dungeon. And I think that would drive people to strive for greater difficulty, and in return drive higher reward, which would feed into those playability loops and the justification for those playability loops. To having to smelt, because I probably already smelted like 800 of those ingots, Elderium ingots, to try to get a certain 2-handed sword. And I've unlocked about 8 or 9 recipes, maybe not that many, maybe more like 7 recipes of the 2-handed sword. So I'm almost there, but I think it's becoming diminishing returns, because I don't know if they continue to just give you random recipes. So I don't know how many of those I'm going to have to smelt to ultimately get the weapon that I'm going after. But I'm keep running these, like, now they're becoming really sterile, really generic dungeons over and over and over, and I'm not enjoying the experience. And so, part of me playing is to problem solve some of these solutions. I think about, okay, what would make this better? And I've noticed another thing. It's like they've introduced all the recipes and content from the original map into the game, but this map is significantly smaller. So by doing that, they've added like these bosses, like this judge boss I'm getting ready to fight here, drops like 70% of the recipes in the game, and they kind of need to spread that out a little bit more. Kind of relook at some of these loot tables and average that out, because you could have one boss and he'll drop like 3 things, and then you have another boss and he drops like 20 things, and you have another boss and he drops like 6 things. And so that those loot tables are just all over the place, and what it does is it kind of forces a little bottleneck in the certain monster types. And so that needs to be ironed out also. I like the judge, or maybe as a solution here, have two versions of the judge. Another issue that I've kind of run into is the like I got the recipe for the good bleed there, a recipe for the frost blades, but I didn't realize this was a 3 skull. Holy bejesus, he's bleeding the shit out of me. But then, what was I saying? But then I completely forgot what I was saying. I was bleeding out, and I completely spaced out what I was saying. There we go. Brain dead. I'm drinking a smoothie from Smoothie King. I just got back from the gym, and I was doing some good late, explosive weightlifting. The old riddle of steel, right? But yeah, so it's kind of one of those things where you have to average out these loot tables to where they're not all piled on one monster, and that's a big issue. There needs to be some a little bit more. Oh, so I got this recipe called frost Blade, Frostbringer, Frost, and basically it was the black ice weapons that come from the dungeon, the Frost Giant dungeon on the old map. But an issue that I've run into is it says that it has to have the Frost Forge. Well, the Frost Forge doesn't exist on this map, and so it's kind of one of those deals where, man, I don't remember this guy having this many hit points. I thought he was a one skull monster, but yeah. So so what am I supposed to do with these blades, these frost, you know what I mean, frost weapons that I can't smelt because there is no frost forge. So I think the kiln. I think they need to do some dialing in and be like, you need the kiln recipe. And I even recommended that in one of my previous videos a long time ago, talking about how they just need to do away with having to run up there to craft these. Just have the kiln, which is a fragment of power recipe, and just make it to where they can make the frost was it bastard sword and long sword. Wow, the attack on that thing is quick, and that way it's kind of come on, there you go. That way it's quick, and it works, and they just change the dialogue on the recipe. Now there's one other thing that needs to happen, and this map needs to be connected to the other map, at least through a load screen. Maybe when you finish the game, and instead of having it to where you remove the bracelet and you walk off the island, maybe when you finish the game it actually unlocks this map and it continues a story. Like you get on a boat and you sail to this island, and then you have access to this island and the old island. You can go back and forth instead of like deleting your character, because I've made several videos about how retarded that ending is, and just how limp that ending is. It's just really poorly, because nobody ever did it. People did it for like a YouTube video, just to do it, and then they never did it. It was a kind of a huge waste of development time, and they never tied it into anything. So you went through all these, you got your fragments, but at least now if they can make it to where it opens up the portal to this map, it drives that playability, and then you get the cutscene to where you get on a boat, and then you come, you're free, you've gotten away, surprise, shipwreck, and then you start your next saga of the Isles of Seth, or Siptah, right? You start your next saga, and then you go through this journey, and it can be a tiered system where if they come out with another map, it's after you complete your journey here and you unlock the tower, and then you get to escape, and then surprise, you're now shipwrecked on another island. And then, but as you unlock these islands, you can teleport. Maybe there's a shrine, or there's a boat you click on. Let's say there's a little rowboat that you click on, and it just teleports you to a little rowboat on the other map. Like you're just gonna row your ass across the sea back to the Isles of Exiles, because that's what that's what Conan would do. He would just row his ass across the Pacific. So I think I'm gonna end the video here, and I've talked about a few discussions, and I'm just gonna keep talking about these issues, and maybe the developers will kind of get it, right? Because I do believe that the development team exists within an echo chamber. Like, they all have the same conversations. I deal with this at work, and they have the same conversations, and you're thinking to yourself, there's a whole other side of the argument that they're missing, an entirely other side of the argument, and you're like, wait a minute, you forget to mention this, and this, and they're like, oh, that's a valid, yep, you're right, that's a valid point, and I think some of that exists within the development team, there at Funcom. I think their focus is a little too narrow, and they're like, yeah, that's good, and they just need some abstract perception and a little bit of open debate, and kind of not be both of us. And that I think that's the best. I think that's the best solution if they can just open up a little bit, because I notice they've kind of turned themselves off to the forums. I think the reality is they don't even really check them anymore. They just, they're committed to their idea, and they've kind of shut down, and they do their task, or they do their requirement, and they just kind of want to move on. But as always, thank you for watching. If you agree, let me know. If you disagree, say so. All right, thanks for watching.